gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Bob Garritson. I live in Billings, and I'm going to talk to you about a hobby that I have. And this is a hobby of mine that's kind of gotten out of control. And what I do is I've had a love of prehistoric technologies, the tools and technologies of the Middle Stone Age, primarily the period of the hunter-gatherer. And most people, I guess they don't realize that there basically were three Stone Ages. There was the Paleolithic, that was the real grunt, snort, drag a woman by the hair, carry a club that they picture, real primitive cavemen. Then there was the period of the Middle Stone Age, and that was a period when tools and technologies really started to be developed. People started being able to manipulate the world around them in order to survive. And like I said, it was a rough life out there. And finally, you have the Neolithic, the New Stone Age. And New Stone Age is primarily farming, Stone Age farming. I'm not much into farming, but I am into, I'm sorry Dave, but I'm into hunting and gathering. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And where we, and I guess a lot of people, for some people, they just don't like to think that they are the descendants of prehistoric cave people. But we all are. We're all the descendants of cave people. And all of our ancestors came out of the Stone Age at different times. The Egyptians came out about 12,000 years ago. The Greeks about 10. The Germans about 5,000 years ago. The Native Americans in the plains about 150 years ago. There are some peoples that in Southeast Asia still living in the Middle Stone Age. And there are peoples, well, like the Irish, came out about 3 weeks ago. So it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, we are all the descendants of cave people. And where we are here in Montana is pretty interesting because just west of us, about 150 miles or so, is what's called the Shields River Valley. It's between Livingston and Big Timber. And the Shields River Valley was the opening of what was called the Glacial Corridor. And there was a gap at, well, you probably remember it, all the big ice ages. The ice age came and the big sheets of ice that came sliding down. Well, as the ice started to recede, a crack opened up along the front range of the Rocky Mountains, and it was called the Glacial Corridor. That crack was the Shields River Valley in along the Yellowstone River, heading north out of between Livingston and Big Timber, along the crazy mountains. And as that crack opened up, animals started migrating from North America and worked their way up to Alaska and across the Bering Straits, across the Bering Land Bridge. And a lot of people, when you talk about the Bering Land Bridge, well, they picture something maybe 60 feet wide that the animals marched across. That Bering Land Bridge was 500 miles wide. So the peoples, the animals, didn't realize that they were crossing a big connection between two continents, between two worlds. And as those animals migrated north, other animals were migrating out of Asia, coming down through the middle, through the Alaska, through the Glacial Corridor, and behind those animals were hunters. And those hunters, right behind them, they hit the Shields River Valley, and they spread out all over North and South America. There have been sites, they say most sites here in America, up in North America, 25,000 years ago. But archaeologists have found sites down in South America that have carbon dated 35 and 40,000 years old. So people have been coming to this part of the world for a long time. Well, I'm going to take you on a little journey in time. We're going to go back up through that Glacial Corridor. We're going to go down through Asia, down through the Middle East, down into Northern Africa, farther down and down, going down. Now we're standing at the edge of the Serengeti, looking out onto the plains from the trees. And there are two individuals standing, looking, Mega Grandpa and Mega Grandma. And they're watching off into the distance. And Mega Grandma, she's watching this lion. And this lion is chasing this gazelle. And this gazelle is running for its life. But the lion is faster and faster and jumps on its back, grabs it by the throat, rips this throat out, starts ripping the flesh off of it, starts eating it. And Mega Grandma's thinking, oh my gosh, that's food. Another animal is eating food. That's food on the hoof out there. I'd love some of that. And pretty soon the lion eats its fill and wanders off. And Mega Grandma thinks, I'm going to try some. So she's looking around. She starts sneaking out there. Before she could get a few feet, some hyenas come in. They grab the rest of that carcass. They're ripping the hide off. They're ripping the rest of the flesh off of it, and they're devouring it. And they're taking the bones and crushing the bones in their teeth and eating what's inside of it. And she's standing there, I wanted some of that. Let me have some. And pretty soon the hyenas get their fill, and they take off. And Mega Grandma, she's waiting, she's looking, and she sneaks out there, getting closer out into this open plain, much like this area here. gets out there, and she finally gets to the carcass, and all she can find out there is a few bones laying out there, and she can pick the sinew off of it and eat it, and there's not much meat, a little bit of meat here and there, but she knows that there's food inside of those bones, food that she saw those hyenas eating. And so she tries it, but she doesn't have those big, powerful jaws to crush those bones. So she tries beating it on the ground. She can't get into it. So she's breaking it over her leg. She can't get into it. She knows there's food right there. Food right within her fingertips, but she can't get to it. And the anger and the frustration starts building inside of her. And without even thinking, she grabs a rock and smashes it, crushes it, breaks it open, and there. Now she can pick out that soft marrow, start sucking it down. Oh, it's delicious. She can feel energy surging through her body. Mega Grandma has done something really incredible. She's invented the food processor. Now she's out there and she's crushing those bones, smashing those bones. She's getting food for her family. And as she's crushing those bones, the smell drifts out across the land. And there's animals out there that they can smell it and they're attracted to it. That's food for them, and they want it. And as she's crushing the bones, she sees it coming. A big hyena. The thing's as big as she is. It's coming for her. It's coming for the food. No place to run. No place to hide. No place. And the thing's almost on top of her without even thinking. She, smashes it in the head. Kills it. Mega Grandpa comes up and he says, "What'd you do?" "I killed a hyena with a food processor." And he said, "Give me that." "Yeah, ooh, yeah, this be good. Yeah." So now he and the boys, they go out and they're thinking, food. And they go out and they find a big dumb animal, run up to it, smash it in the head, take it home, rip the skin off of it, and you can eat it. Yeah. And they get to thinking and working, the proteins building inside their brain, and it's making it smarter. And they look around and they find other tools. Ooh, yeah, this be a real good one. Now go out, find another big dumb animal, run up to it, smash it in the head, take it home, rip the skin off of it, and you can eat it. Yeah. Man has taken a gigantic step. No longer is he a simple victim, he's a victimizer. He's a hunter, he's a killer, he's a tool user. And that's what changed us from all the other animals out there. The ability to find tools, make tools, and use those tools to hunt, kill, and get food for our families. Powerful. Well, Mega Grandma, she's out there in the plains, and as she wanders along, she's noticed that she's feeling more confident now, and she sees animals that are stopping. And they'll stop at a plant sticking out of the ground. They'll claw at the root, tear at the roots, and pop out a great bulb and eat it, and start devouring it. And she's thinking, my gosh, I didn't know there was a smorgasbord underground. And so she's looking, hunting, and pretty soon she sees that twig, and she says, okay, I know that plant. That's the one they went after. So she gets out there, she starts clawing at the earth, ripping at the earth, but she doesn't have those powerful earth-moving claws like those other animals have. The food is right there. It's right underground. But how does she get it? How can she get to it? And as she's sitting there looking, thinking, she sees it. Yeah, a big sharp stick. And she tries tearing into the earth, ripping at the earth, clawing at the earth, and pops out that big root, bites into it. She can feel the starches, the sugars surge into her body. Mega Grandma has invented the digging stick. The digging stick, used by cultures all over the world for hundreds of thousands of years to turn the earth, to dig the earth, and find what the earth has beneath it. Well, as she's out there digging, that smell of fresh turned earth drifts out across the land. And there's animals out there that they smell that fresh turned earth, and they're attracted to it. It's something to eat. Has something come to the surface? Is it worms, grubs, roots? They don't know, but they want it. They want what's come to the surface. And as she's digging away there, finding food for her family, she sees it coming. A big armadillo, as big as she is. She's not going to give up this food. It wants what she's dug up, and she's not going to give it away. She's not going to give it away without a struggle. And the thing gets closer and closer and closer, and without even putting too much thought to it, she smacks it, knocks it down. Mega Grandpa comes up and he says, "What'd you do?" "I killed an armadillo with a digging stick." And he said, "Give me that." Yeah. Ooh, yeah, this be really good. Now they can go out and find another big dumb animal, run up to it, smack it, knock it down, and if it's not dead, you can poke a hole into it and a whole bunch of juice runs out of it. You can take it home, rip the skin off of it, and you can eat it. Yeah. It was a good tool. It was a great tool. But you know how us men are. If big is good, bigger's always better, right? And that's how I came up with a tool like this. Now we've got a man's tool. Nice, long, sharp poking stick. Really great. Sharp on the end, maybe heat it up in a fire so it gets needle sharp at the end of that thing. Anyway, this stick If you can see, you can never find a nice, sharp stick, straight stick like this out in the woods. They're always bent, they're always twisted. Well, what they discovered was rub animal fat onto it and hold it next to a fire, and as it gets to cooking and bubbling and crackling, take it out, bend it straight over your leg, let it cool down, and it comes out nice and straight, just like I did with this one. I was reading in an old science journal years ago that over in Germany, some paleontologists were excavating a gravel pit. And in this gravel pit, they found a bunch of horse skeletons. And laying amongst the bones of these horse skeletons were spears, just like this, carbon dated 450,000 years old. For almost 500,000 years, people have been using a tool like this to go after food, animals for food, horses for taking them home for dinner. It's a great tool, it's a powerful tool, and a tool like this is still being used in jungles around the world today. Yeah, it's a good tool. Well, a big stick like that is good for killing, but you can't always carry a big stick, you know, especially if you're going after small game. That's a little bit of overkill. So they decided to go for a little bit smaller version. And here it is. This is called a throwing stick because it's a stick that you can throw. Now you go out there and you find an animal, you sneak up on it and you whip through there and knocks them down. If it's not dead, you go over there, give them an extra thump on the head, take them home, rip the skin off of them, and you can eat them. Yeah. Throwing stick, used by cultures all over the world for thousands of years for bringing down game. But you know, some people discovered that this is a big chunk of wood, and you don't always have to carry a big chunk of wood. In the southwest United States, the Indians down there made a stick, flat, curved over the top, like something you see going through the sky every day. It's an airplane wing. And it operates the same principle as an airplane wing because of Bernoulli's principle of fluid dynamics. Air rush, it goes under the bottom, and that same meeting air has to go over the top faster to meet on the other side, and so it creates a vacuum here, increases the pressure here, and it maintains the height for a longer distance. So now if you're hunting a rabbit, you can whip it out there like a helicopter blade, and you've got your animals. But on the other side of the world, the people there are even more famous for their rabbit sticks, and that's what this was called, a rabbit stick. In Australia, the peoples there had a tool and called the boomerang. And the boomerang, again, because of Bernoulli's principle, when you're throwing it, and when they threw it horizontally like this, or vertically like this, as it would go through the air, say a flock of birds is flying, a flock of ducks, and as it whips through the air, the leading edge is going faster than the back edge. And as it comes around, it's going faster and faster and faster. The pressure is greater on this leading edge, and as it goes through the air, it'll spin and return back to you. You can catch it and throw it again. In fact, there's competitions all over, and especially in the eastern part of the United States, of boomerang competitions. But it was a great, powerful tool, but it wasn't the Aborigines of Australia who designed the first returning boomerang that they know of. The oldest returning boomerang that has ever been found in the world was found in a cave in Poland, carbon dated 50,000 years old. So 50,000 years ago, remember we used to make those Polish jokes, you know, and stuff? They were geniuses. They understood aerodynamics, they understood flight. All they needed was a motor, but it was incredible. A good tool, a powerful tool. Well, Maggie Grandma, that woman, she was something else. As she's out wandering the plains, she noticed that some animals stop at a little plant and they'll pick at the seeds on that plant and they'll gulp them right down. And so she's thinking, well, more food at this place it's like Walmart. And so she's out there. She starts picking a bunch of these seeds off and she pops them in her mouth and they're getting stuck in her teeth and it's like eating gravel. And she's thinking, these birds are eating it, other animals are eating it, why can't I get it so I can eat it? She thought, maybe I can have something chew the seeds up for me. And almost every culture in the world had a tool just like this. Here in North America, we call it the mano and matate, stone grinders, where they would grind the seeds. Here I have some corn because it's a little bit bigger seed and people can see it better. And the same process, just do the grinding, you crush the seeds, get the outside of it broken up, and as you're grinding and crushing back and forth, it pulverizes it into a flour or into a coarse meal. And you can take it and you can make breads with it. You can add thickenings to soups with this. And it's a great way to get more nutrition out of the plants that are around you. Works great. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. One problem is that as you're grinding up those seeds, you're grinding up rock. And cultures, archaeologists and have studied the skeletal remains of different cultures that use a mano and matate. And the old people, all their teeth are worn down to nubbins. Imagine getting up every morning, having a bowl of cereal, and sprinkling some sand on it. You know, crunch, crunch, crunch. Over time, the teeth are all worn away. They were healthy for a long time, but towards the very end, they probably turned into real cranky people because, man, your teeth are all grunged up. Another tool, Mega Grandma. She's out there wandering the plains. And as she's using the old food processor, smashing away, she's discovered that some rocks are really fragile. They break really easy. And one of the rocks that pretty soon they discovered it was actually, when it broke, it became a wonderful tool. A wonderful tool. And the rock they looked for was volcanic glass, obsidian, a powerful tool. And they discovered that you can start knocking off some pieces off of it. Let's see if I can knock something off of here. Yeah, that was a pretty good piece. And they found that it was fairly sharp. In fact, let me try it with this piece of elkite. Well, that's a nice thick piece of elkite. You saw how it just slipped right through that. This blade is so incredibly sharp. If you looked at it under an electron microscope, perfectly smooth going across the edge. Look at the sharpest scalpel that a surgeon uses for doing surgery, and under an electron microscope, looks like a crosscut saw. This blade is so sharp that you don't have to slice. You can just lay it against the skin, press it against the skin, and the skin will open up. I've cut myself so many times with these things, and the next day, the wound is healed. Because it isn't a ripping, tearing, it just separates the cells, and the cells will grow right back together again. It's a beautiful tool. Well, Mega Grandpa got to looking, and he got to thinking that if he could take this old butcher knife of Grandma's, and that's basically what it was, an old butcher knife, if he could modify it, shape it, and work with it, he might have himself a good tool. And over time, they came up with it. Yeah, now this is a real man's tool. Combine stone, wood, lashed together with sinew. Now you can really go out and do some hunting. You can get out there and you can poke a hole into an animal really hard and shove it into him, and a whole bunch of juice runs out of him. Take him home, rip the skin off of him, and you can eat him. Yeah, you're getting right there. Anyway, a great tool. And you can still find points like these out in the hills around here today. The bigger points were from spearheads like this. I was reading in another National Geographic years and years ago when it wasn't quite as politically correct, and they were talking about how there was a group of pygmies in Africa, and they would have an old man. His job was to take a spear like this, go out and sneak up underneath the belly of an elephant and as hard as he could into that elephant's belly, and then run as fast as he could, because that elephant's kind of dancing around out there, and if you don't get away, you turn into a big greasy spot. And they follow that elephant around for a few days, and he falls over and dies. And then the pygmies would swarm all over him. They've got their butcher knives right at the end of the stick, and they can slice him up and cut him up into nice, easy pieces and take him home. And when they get down to the diaphragm, the kind of a sac that holds the internal organs inside, after a couple of days with a spear in him, it's bloated out and stretched out like a gigantic balloon. And when they get down to that diaphragm, they would have a boy who's about to enter manhood. And his rite of passage would be to climb up onto that giant gas bag and rip it open with his teeth. And it blew up in his face, and he would become a man. Today, we just give our boys a driver's license, but I don't know. If they chewed on an elephant's belly for a while, it'd make men out of them. Yeah. A good tool, a great tool. Well, like I said, stones. Stones were used for everything. Some people found that they could take a rock and they could peck a groove in it, like I did with this piece of vesicular basalt, and it took me about 45 minutes to peck this groove into this thing. Wrap a stick around, give yourself a nice good handle on it, and now when you go out there and after you've poked a spear into an animal, and if he's just laying there and he's not dead yet, he's just laying there, you can go up to him and you can pow right in his head, and you can rock him to sleep. Rock him to... Anyway, this rock, like I said, it took me 45 minutes to peck the groove in this one. This one right here, rhyolite, 8 hours to peck the groove in this one. Again, but it's just as effective of a tool for knocking things out and doing a great attitude adjusting job. And when I talk about pecking, that's what I mean. You can take a rock, and what you always do is look for a rock that's already in the shape that you want for making a hammerstone, and then you take another rock, maybe I prefer quartzite, because it's a hard rock, and the rock you want to carve, dip it in water, and then that hard. Don't slam on it, because you're just going to bust all the rocks apart. But a slow, and keep turning it and turning it and doing it. Dip it in water, do it again and again. Two reasons why you dip it in water. One, every time you tap it like that, you're driving molecules of water in between the grains of the rock, and it helps to blast it out of there. Second reason, silicosis. As you're hammering, the silica dust comes up and you start breathing it in, and after a while you've got a lung full of cement. Miners that work in hard rock mining, in the old days they would suffer from a thing called white lung. And like coal miners had black lung, hard rock miners had white lung. And it was their lungs would fill up with silicon, and they'd suffocate and be having a lung full of cement. So a slow, methodical pecking technique. And this one, I just finished that one, and it's ready to be lashed onto a stick. Another one that oh God, this one. I finished this one, this was a few years ago, and I was going to put a big 4-foot handle on that thing, and I was going to start pumping iron because I was going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And as time has passed, I'm beginning to look a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore. He's not quite as beautiful as he used to be. But it was a great tool. It was going to be a good one. Another hammerstone, the Celtic or Celtic axe head. This one was same thing. You find a rock that's almost in the shape you want, peck down the edge to get it nice and sharp, and then take a chunk of sandstone and polish it down, hone it down until you get a nice sharp edge. Now you can use it for chopping through wood, bone, chunks of meat, whatever else, somebody's head. And I was at a caveman convention in Rexburg, Idaho, and they do have caveman conventions. It's called Rabbit Stick, and it's held at the end of September. So if you're ever interested to learn about Stone Age technologies, that's something that you really should look into. And they had a competition between a stone axe and a steel axe going through an 8-inch aspen. It took less blows with a stone axe to go through that aspen than it did with a steel axe. So much more mass behind it. And as you're driving, you'd think it would split all the wood apart, so what's wrapped around, they would wrap around it with rawhide and sinew to help hold the wood together so it doesn't split out. And then if you don't want to have to carry a big axe like this, it comes apart, put this into a pouch, and you got yourself a little dating tool. Now you know, oh, she's cute. Take her home for mama. Anyway, that's not politically correct, is it? So, yeah, it was a great tool. Did I say something offensive there? Oh, no, good. Another stone tool, when they got to manipulating with the obsidian, some people became so skilled that they would start making beautiful, beautiful tools. And, you know, I would like to say that I made this, but a friend of mine made this tool for me, this knife. And it's a beautiful, sharp obsidian blade. And, gosh, it does a great job. I could probably perform all sorts of surgery on anybody that would like to step forward. It's a great little tool. And I guess I should tell you that almost everything except for 3 items, I think it's 4 items here, I've made all this stuff. I didn't raid some archaeological site and stuff. This has been a project that I've been working on for 20-some years. Back to stones. You can never get enough stones. And one day there was a fellow, and he was hungry for a rabbit. Oh, rabbit is so good. And he went out and he got himself a rock, and he's going to get himself a bunny. And he's looking around out there, and pretty soon he sees a bunny, he throws it at it, hits it, and it just bounces off the rabbit, and the rabbit just boing, 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 keeps on going. And he got to thinking, there's got to be some way that I can add more strength, more power to my throwing. And over time, he discovered that if you added another length to your arm, you could have more throwing power. If you had something right here, tried throwing, a couple of feet. Here, a lot farther. Another length, really far. And the tool they came up with was the sling. Not a slingshot, a sling. Every time I hold this up, everybody says, slingshot. No, slingshot is that forked stick with a rubber band on it or inner tube. This is a sling, and it's been used for hunting for thousands and thousands of years. Anybody ever read Clan of the Cave Bear and those stories? Ayla. Yeah, this is what Ayla used to use. And it's a powerful tool. And there's 2 different throwing techniques with this one. One is if you're hunting up close, and most people think when you hunt with a sling, you go out there and you sneak up on an animal, there's your animal over there, and you go like this, and pick it up speed. If any of you hunt, what does an animal do if you're standing out there? It's gone, it's out of the way. When you hunt with a sling, it's just one quick throwing action where you're just kind of like that over you. And there's 2 different throwing techniques. One is the overhand, and that's for up close hunting. And the other one, another one, it's called the elk killer, and I call it the elk killer because it's such a powerful one. But hunters would use it, like especially if they got down into a place where there were a lot of willows and thickets, and they know that there's deer in the willows. And what they would do is they would throw this rock so far that it would land way on the far side of the deer, and do that several times, closer and closer, and you could drive the game animals towards the hunters. And I'll do the elk killer right now, because I always like doing this. I'll step right here. Okay. And the elk killer technique, and you can see how far the rock will travel when using the elk killer is.
Whoa, that's sweet.
There. So there is a little bit of power behind these things. So they're a tremendous hunting tool. That elk killer technique was also used by Palestinians to throw hand grenades years ago too. So it's a very effective tool.
Is there a way to aim with it?
Oh yeah, doing the long one. Yeah, I was aiming out in that general right specific direction, and it would land into willows and stuff. You could see how far it went, and you could drive animals closer and closer to the hunters that way. If you're doing it up close, you'd probably get no farther away than maybe the green tent right there for small game, and you can hit a spot probably about that big accurately with a sling like that. Later on, maybe afterwards, I'll show it that. Another animal that people loved to hunt was duck. Duck was absolutely delicious, and you could use everything on the duck. You could use you got the meat, you got the feathers, you got the oils that were waterproofing under the wings. You can use everything off the duck except for the whack whack. Everything else, you could use it. And one fellow, he's going to go out hunting. He grabbed himself a rock. He's waiting for some ducks to come flying by. Pretty soon, here comes a bunch of ducks, and he throws it at it, just misses it. And he got to thinking, okay, I know how to play this game. Yeah, he went down, he grabbed himself 4 rocks. Shotgun approach. Now, pretty soon, here comes some more ducks. Then he throws them at it, 2 in front, 1 behind, and 1 underneath. And he got to thinking, there's got to be some way I can make this work together. You know, this just isn't working right. And working together, yeah, they came up with a tool. And over time, here's an example of it. The bolos on the strings. So now when they go out duck hunting and they see a flock of ducks flying overhead, and when the ducks come flying, you just kind of take it out and throw it up in the air. Throw it up in the air, and this spreads out, and it becomes the flying spider web. And if just one part of it hits the duck, it wraps it around it, drags it to the ground. You can run over there, break its neck, take it home, rip the skin off of it, and you can eat it. Darn right. There we go. Well, different cultures had different numbers of bolos. Some people had 4, 5, 3. Some places up in Alaska for hunting bird, they'll have as many as 13 strings, rocks hanging off the strings like this for catching the birds. But also up in Alaska and in South America, they would use a tool like this. Just have 2 of them. The gauchos of South America would use it for catching cattle, but the Eskimos would use it for catching reindeer. And as they throw it out there, it'd wrap around their legs and drag them down. But the children up there also used it as a toy. And it was what was called the Eskimo yo-yo. And so they would take it and they would, the kids would take one and spin it like this, and the other one like that, and let's try that one more time. I know what happens when it doesn't go right.
Jesus Christ, please God, please, Mama.
Okay, one more time. One more time, see. Cooperate with me. There we go. There we go. This could really hurt you. One day I was out in my backyard and I had a post sticking up. And I was going to practice. I was going to spin it around, and I got that one spinning this way, and I was going to throw the other one in like that and get it and whip it out there around this post. And I was spinning this one around like this. I threw this one. Well, for some reason it came down around the back of my hand, came around my head, slapped me in the nose. I dropped my hand. The other one came around the other way, had me by the throat. Blood's gushing. I'm strangling out there. My kids are laughing. Yeah. But it sure made me feel like a man. Yeah. A great tool. A wonderful tool. Well, like I said, ducks. Ducks are important. And the Paiute Indians would make decoys out of tule reeds or bulrushes like this. They'd put a rock on it, put it in a pond, and it sits out there and it's floating. Ducks aren't known for having a real high IQ, and they would be attracted to it. And they would land out there and they would catch them. But some of the Paiutes would make these so big that they could put them over their head, and they would go into the ponds, go out there treading water, and they would catch ducks barehanded. Years ago, I was reading a book. It was called Staying Alive in the Woods by Bradford Anger. Really a wonderful book on survival skills. And he talked about how you could take cattails, willows, reeds, and you could tie them all around your head and stuff, and you could go into a pond and catch ducks barehanded. And my uncle had this pond west of Billings, so I did that. I got the willows, and I got the cattails, and I had the reeds all tied around. I was beautiful. I looked like a bush. And then I got into this water, and there was always this mallard sitting in this pond. And so I got down into the water, and I started treading closer and closer and closer. And boy, my heart is just boom, 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 I'm going to get a duck. And pretty soon I got right out there, got right next to him, and he didn't move. And I reached under the water, grabbed him by the foot, yanked him under the water. And that's when the biology lesson started. I didn't know they had fangs and claws. This thing started tearing into me, and the leg was going after. Then I made my second mistake. I let loose of that foot, and both of those feet. Yeah, wrestling a duck in a pond makes you feel like a man, too. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, other things that you can find in the ponds, in swamp areas. The Indians of northern Alberta would make dolls for girls to play with. And they would, this is my cattail, Ken and Barbie. And these are made out of cattails. And they would give these to the girls so they could learn how to become mothers. And they would have these toys. And in fact, every game that kids learned how to play in the quote primitive cultures, primitive, I hate the negative connotation of it. It actually means the first cultures. Every toy that they got was to teach them how to become adults, how to become survivors. The girls got dolls, so they knew how to take care of babies. So when they became mothers at 12 years old, they knew how to take care of the babies and stuff. The boys would get something like, they give them little animals like these, split willow deer, and they would put them on the hillside and give them little bows and arrows, and ding, 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 so they could learn how to become hunters. But everything that they played, every game they played, was to learn how to survive, how to provide food, how to take care of your family. Because if you weren't out there hunting and learning how to bring food, you had a neighbor that lived just over the hill. His name was Starvation, and he wanted to move in with you at a moment's notice. And you just slacked off for just a second, and Starvation moved into your tent with you. And he was a bad neighbor to have. He did a real thorough job. So anyway, they all got toys to play with. And toys taught them how to survive. Well, oh gosh, seeing how we're standing out here, and you can see how it's a terrible sunshiny day and the sun is just blinding us and stuff. You know, normally it'd be beautiful out. The Indians developed ways to protect their eyesight. Eyesight, without your eyes, you were in a world of hurt. And in the Treaty of Fort Laramie, there's some photos of a group of Crow warriors riding in on horseback. And when they come riding in on horseback, this is what they were wearing. All the warriors had this on their heads, sun visors. And they'd come riding in, and it protect their eyesight. Yeah, it does look funny. But what it did is it protect their vision, because you could ride into the sun, you're not being blinded. You can see what's going on way out there. When you're hunting and the deer are over there and the sun's right there, you're not being blinded by the sunlight. It protected your vision. Protecting your vision, protected your life, kept your neighbor Starvation on the other side of the hill. So they used all sorts of things to protect their eyesight. And where we live up here in Montana, and the farther north you go, when the snows come, and I don't know if any of you have ever had the experience of having snow blindness. Have anybody experienced snow blindness? Even if you have a minor case of it, the best way that I describe snow blindness is have somebody hold open your eyes and then pour red hot sand into your eyes and don't let you wash your eyes out for a few days. That's what snow blindness feels like. It's the most gosh awful pain that you could ever have in your vision there. Well, the peoples all over who lived in snowy environments would use something like this to protect their eyesight. And this is very similar to what the Indians, the Eskimos up in the North Slopes would wear. They'd wear these type of things like this, and the darkness would absorb the rays of the sun, and they'd look through these slits, and it would protect their eyesight. And yet they could see wonderfully out there without suffering from snow blindness. There we go. Okay, that's good for that sort of stuff there. Well, another material. Let's see, I kind of how I told that. Yeah, I had not a bit of truth in that one. Okay, another material that people used was bone. Bone was Well, bone was ubiquitous. Everywhere you could find bone because you're killing animals that were full of bones, and you used the bones. And bones were used for all sorts of things. Some people, well, the Crow Indians made their arrowheads out of bone. They didn't make theirs out of stone. They used bone. Needle sharp, just incredibly powerful. You'd hit your animal, and it killed them. After you killed the animal, well, take out your bone knife and gut the animal. Clean him up, butcher him up like that. And after you've butchered him, well, you've got the hide, and you want to do something with the hide, so you want to tan the hide, so you take a bone, this is a leg bone, buffalo leg bone, cut it at an angle like this, cut some sharp little teeth into it, and you've got a fleshing tool to scrape all the fats and the meats and everything off the animal hide. And then, of course, you use the animal brain to tan the hide. Like these pants right here are antelope hide, and they're brain tanned. Wonderful, really comfortable. It's like wearing a soft pair of pajamas. Well, after you've tanned the hide, well, you want to sew with them. So they would make needles out of the bones. This is made out of an elk bone. This is out of a deer bone. And they would sew moccasins, teepees, clothing, use it for all kinds of weavings and stuff like this. They'd make them really small, needle shape, and you could sew wounds together by take a piece of sinew and sew a big slash in your arm up and heal yourself that way. Other things you use bones for? Well, some of them would take bird bones, like these. This is a turkey bone, and they would use it as a turkey call. And you'd make a kissing sound on it, and it would amplify out. Now, I was up on the Bull Mountains north of Billings, and I knew there were turkeys, wild turkeys in the area, and I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And so I sat on this ridge line, and oh, darn, if turkeys didn't come out of the trees, came towards me. Now, I don't know if I was really good and they were really stupid or vice versa, but something like this, it really seemed to work. Another thing that they used bones for was fishing. They would take a sliver of bone like this, you can see it's needle sharp on both ends, and they would put some bait onto it, lash it with maybe sinew or dog bane, some kind of a fibrous material, drop it in the water, and the fish would swallow it, and they would boom, go crosswise into their gullets, and they could pull the fish to shore, catch fish that way. Trappers, they also used this for trapping. They would put a chunk of meat on it, tie it to a tree, and the bobcats, coyotes, wolves, whatever, these animals that were flesh eaters, they'd have a chunk of meat on here, and they weren't known for chewing their food 40 times. If there was a chunk of meat, they would just gulp it down and trot on their merry way. Well, as they started trotting on their merry way, this is tied to a tree, and as they struggled, it pulled and ripped out their jugular veins, and they would bleed to death in a matter of seconds out there. Now, I know I can look at some of the faces and I think, oh, horrible, what a terrible, horrible thing to do. Tell you, 99% of the animals that die in the woods are dying because some other animal is out there eating them alive. So, you want to die really quick like this, or do you want to just lay there and have something chewing on you for a while before they finally do you in? Either way, well, nature isn't pretty. Nature doesn't treat you nice. Another fishing tool would be a tool like this. This would fit onto the end of a spear. Let's see if I've got one here that I can. I guess not.
Yeah, you do.
I didn't have it right there. Didn't have the right. No, that's a different one. It rolled over the edge, Barb. They would put this on a spear, and when you went fishing, it didn't go into the fish like this. This went on either side of the fish, and this would be for catching maybe trout or small game like this. And these little barbs inside there would hold the fish into place, and you could pull him into shore. Out on the Pacific coast, the Indians there would stand on these huge platforms, and they'd have these 30-foot long spears with the heads on them this long, and with the inward pointing hooks like this, going after salmon. And they would bring salmon in, 50, 60-pound salmons, by stabbing them, pulling them, and if it pulled out of the spearhead, they'd still have a line attached to it, or they could drag them in and pull them into shore. So anything that was out there that they could manipulate, change, they used it in order to be able to survive. A great little tool. This will be wound up there in a second. Oh, okay. Here we go. Well, one day in this village, these guys are sitting around and they're bragging about how big and strong they are and their hunting prowess. And one of the guys says, "Gentlemen, I have got the new hunting tool. This is going to change hunting forever. You know how dangerous it is to go out there, especially after bears or something. You want to have something that's going to be safer. This, gentlemen, this is what we're going to go hunting with." And one of the guys gets up, "Now, Bruce, I've got an 8-foot spear, You remember Big Eddie last week who went after that grizzly and it ripped his arms off? I don't want to know if I want to take that thing of yours to go out there and yeah, it's just not going to work. And he says, boys, you've got the wrong idea. Instead of going out there with a bunch of big, an armload of spears, we'll just take one like this. But what we'll do is we'll cut the end off of it and we'll make dozens of these guys and carry them in a pouch. And we'll just stick them into our spear like this, the removable force shaft. And now when you go out there hunting, you've got your animal, and if you run up to him and shove it into him and you back away, this stays inside of him. And it makes a whole bunch of juice runs out of him. And you do it again and again. Or if that animal is running out there, you can take it and you can throw it at him, and as it hits him, as he's running, this falls away, and this thing keeps slicing and dicing and cutting him up on the inside. These take a lot of work to make. These were pretty easy to make. Just nap out an arrowhead and lash it on, and it changed hunting forever. The removable force shaft made hunting safer, easier, and more effective. And you can still find these smaller points out in the hills around here today. The removable force shaft changed hunting. It was a good tool, a powerful tool. Okay, well, one day in this village, these kids are sitting around and they're playing, and you know how kids like to play, and one of the kids, he gets himself one of the sticks and he ties a piece of cordage to it, and he went on both ends really tight, and he made noise close to your head. This is cool. Hold it right up to your ear, and oh, this is nice. Stick it in your ear, and oh yeah, I'm really getting into this. This is my kind of music. Sorry you can't hear it, but I'm really getting off on it. Those kids invented the first iPods, and now every kid in the village has got one of these things hanging out of their head, and they're just thumping away like it. And you know how kids are when they've got an iPod on? They're paralyzed. They're just going to sit there and just Well, one of the mothers, she gets out there and she hollers, Malcolm, you go down to the pond to get me some crayfish. And, oh yeah, Ma. So he went over and he grabbed the old crayfish pot. He's walking along, and as he's plunking the iPod, he found that if it touched the pot, noise started coming out of it. No noise? Noise. And he got to thinking, if there was some way, wow, that he could hook this up together, he might have something here. Over time, people came up with it. South America, they call this instrument the bariamba. I feel like Jimi Hendrix. Rock it out, baby! Music. Music brought joy and pleasure to people's lives. And this instrument, you found it in South America, you found it in Asia, you found it in China, you found it all over the world. And it was invented almost simultaneously at different parts of the world. But in South America, the only name I know it by is the bariamba. But joy was brought by this. Music. Any time you had music, you brought joy to people's lives. Because it's either hunt, kill, hunt, kill, hunt, kill. Well, now if you have music, you've got something that makes life a little bit more enjoyable. Some people found that they could take a hollow log like this, stretch a hide over it, and let it dry, and you beat on it, and humidity out here, it's changing the sound of the drum. But scientists have found that 2 beats or faster in a semi-darkened environment induces a dreamlike state. And who knows, sitting around a campfire, you're listening to the sound of the drum, and it brings on a dream, and it may bring hallucinations, and it may be the beginnings of some religions. But because some peoples are traveling on the go all the time, they couldn't carry a big heavy log like this. The Plains Indians were famous for their drums, and this is called the hand drum. And it's still being used today for different ceremonies and games. They have a game called the hand game. Has anybody ever had the opportunity to see a hand game? The best way to describe it is a giant game of button, who's got the button, but they start betting some really big bucks on who's got the button. And you'll have a team of men in front, and they have these bones that they're playing with, and their movements are in rhythm to the drum, and they'll be ba-boom, 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 and passing it back and forth and behind their backs, and then you've got to guess which hand the bone is in. And it's a complicated scoring system, and they're betting big money on who's got which one. And behind the players, they have the drummers, and they'll have a line of about 6 or 7 drummers, and doing it at that fast of a rhythm. And the rhythm of the drum, their hands are ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. It's beautiful to watch. If you ever have an opportunity to go to a hand game, you have to watch a hand game tournament. But the sound of the drum, it's a great sound. Well, some people's found that maybe one day it was just a day out in the plains or in the jungles, and the wind was just blowing gently, and there was a rotten piece of bamboo out there, and some worms had eaten some holes in it, and the wind was playing, and just out of a rotten piece of bamboo, but yet music was born. The flute, and the flute was, you find it all over the world. Cultures discovered the flute. The Plains Indians, they had a flute, and, well, this is one flute that was given to me, but I wanted to show it and play it. This flute was given to me by my wife, because I am really an incredibly wonderful husband. And I just, okay. And she wanted me to have this and to bring it to the show, to play it for you. And now I gotta tune it here. It's very fussy, especially when the humidity changes. The flute, it's just it has such a neat sound to it. And guys, let me tell you, women are suckers for flute music. Did you see these girls? They're all sitting here, oh, oh. Well, the young men, they would sit behind their girlfriend's teepee, and they would play this and serenade her, and she would be inside, oh, you're so wonderful. Yeah, so I tell you, this is a powerful, powerful instrument. Well, in South America, the Yanomamo Indians, they would take a thigh bone of their enemy, and they would, after they killed him, if they fought in battle and stuff and they killed him, they would take his thigh bone and they would make a flute out of it to honor that enemy. It wasn't that the enemy was a disgusting, evil person. He fought well, he died well. Honor him, respect him by playing this flute. And there was this bad motorcycle wreck outside of Billings, and this leg was just laying there. And it's a deer leg, my gosh. Anyway, and it plays like you're playing a pop bottle, and over the top. Just a simple bone flute, but yet it makes really good music. And the Yanomamos, played this instrument. Well, on different parts of the country, like say in southeast United States and down in the jungles of Mexico and Southeast Asia, they would take chunks of bamboo and they would clean them out inside, and around the campfires at night, they would make chanting or grunting sounds and sit around the fire and chant and make all sorts of noises, and it'd be really exciting because it was a voice from a different part of the world coming out, amplified out of here. But in Australia, the peoples there were famous for theirs, and they would learn that if they vibrated their lips at the right speed, you could create a wild sound wave that came flowing through and flowed out the end of it. And they would play it and sit around the fires. Now, I always look inside these things. I was out of school one day going to play this, and so I got it out, and there was a big spider inside of that thing, and it crawled out onto my face, and I just about lost my hearing because I was screaming like a little girl. It was awful. So I always make darn sure there's nobody inside of that thing now. It's scary. So I'll see if I can get my lips to work in this today. And sometimes the lips work, sometimes they don't. Come on! God, it's like starting an old motor on an outboard. Try to. We'll be sitting around at a campfire, my brother and son and stuff. We all have didgeridoos like this, and we sit there, and it makes such a haunting sound that comes blending up out and into the night sky. It's such really a cool sound. It plays well. It sounds neat. But that's the didgeridoo, and that's what the didgeridoo does. Boy, I hear something off in the distance there. It sounds like an airplane. Well, another tool that's made sounds and music. The Hopi Indians of the southwest United States would take this instrument, I don't know if I should try this, but it calls in the rain gods, the thunder gods, the storm gods. Okay, we'll give it a try. And as they spin it,
Wow.
it calls in the rain gods, the thunder gods, and they bring crops, rain for the beans, the gourds, the squash, all their crops out there. And it helped to feed their peoples because the gods were happy when they heard a sound like this. But on the other side of the world, in Australia, the peoples there had their own instrument, very similar, the bull roar. And yet, this one was great for using for communication. I was at that caveman convention, and on the Henry's Fork of the Snake River, we played this one, and the sound carried for 2 miles on the river. So it was just one of those really fine days. Now, I'll spin this. I'm going to step over here just a little bit so I don't smack stuff here. If you see this thing flying at you, duck, because it'll go 2 or 3 inches right into your skull. So we don't want to do that because I can't afford, well, Nate can't afford the liability. We'll see. You know, one time I was going to get a hold of Suzanne Summers because she quit doing Thigh Master, and I thought she might like to do this because, boy, this is a great aerobic exercise. My heart is just, takes a minute there to catch my breath. Sounds. Whew. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, at one time, I lived in Central America along in the jungles, and there was a group of Indians, Mayan Indians that I lived with, and they loved butterflies, and there were such beautiful butterflies down there. There was one type of butterfly that iridescent blue and about that big around. Gosh, she was absolutely gorgeous. And they had what they called the butterfly whistle. And they would use it to call in butterflies. And they'd blow on it, and a little melody would come out, and they'd call the butterflies in. And if you listen carefully, sometimes you can hear it, and it's kind of cool up, but who knows, maybe I can call in some butterflies today. So listen carefully, and we'll see what we can hear. Oh, sorry. God, she came about 2 or 3 inches off her seat there. That was great. Yeah, no, they didn't call butterflies. The fishermen would use these on the coast to call from boat to boat to boat, and from shore out to the sea and back and forth. The sound would carry across the water there, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful sound. And it's much like playing a trumpet. I don't know, are there any trumpet players here or horn players here? Nobody plays horns or trumpets? Boy, I can't, you people, just no talent out there? What is this? So anyway, it's a neat sound, but you have to blow really hard enough, you can almost feel your brains going out through the top of it. Another sound, another instrument. When I lived in the jungles down there, I lived in this Mayan village, and these Mayans, I mean, wonderful people, they were dirt poor. They were so poor, you couldn't believe how poor they were. And so I was trying to learn about the culture and stuff, because I dropped out of college and I just wanted to have that experience. And I would cut chiclets with people. I would help in the gardens with the corn and the beans and crops and stuff like this. We'd take care of the cattle. And these people, they did have a few head of cattle. They had a very small herd, but they had a problem. A jaguar was coming in and killing their cattle. And every couple of days, he'd come in and kill a cow. Well, these people were so desperately poor, but they weren't allowed to kill the jaguar. They had to have somebody do it. I mean, if a rancher loses a cow to a mountain lion, he'd do something right away, right? Wouldn't you do something? You'd adjust that animal's attitude. Well, anyway, so they called the government agencies, and they sent out a guy with a shotgun, double-aught shot in it, another fellow with a big, powerful flashlight, and a third fellow with a device called the jaguar call. And they were going to go into the jungle to call the jaguar and kill it. And I asked if I could go along because I thought, well, this is another cultural experience, and I wanted to see what it was like. And the jungles in the Yucatan down there, they're not like you see on TV, the vines hanging all over the place and you have to chop your way through it. It's huge tree trunks going way up, 150 feet up in there, and then a thick canopy over the top. Nothing's growing around on the bottom, maybe a shrub here and there, but it's just like these giant tree trunks growing everywhere. And you could wander all through the jungle, and you know, it's the only thing you'd run into are big spider webs hanging all over the place. Well, we found a big rock that we could sit next with our backs to, because you wanted animals to come to the front of you. You didn't want something sneaking up behind. So we went into that jungle, and when it got dark, it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was pitch absolutely black. And so the guy started to call the jaguar. And what it was is a gourd that had both ends cut off, monkey hide stretched over the top of it, with donkey hair on the inside, with that coated in beeswax. And so he started calling. And after about a half hour or so, off in the distance, we could hear. And he'd call again. And it'd answer back. And they communicated back and forth, grunting. And pretty soon, after about a half hour or so, we heard in front of us a twig snap. And the one fella turned on the flashlight and leaped through the air like jaguar, and boom, 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 the shotgun went off and he dropped dead right at my feet. And I had to go in the woods because I had a little accident. Yeah, you guys laugh. You know, you'd think every muscle in your body would just become tight and rigid, except for a couple of the muscles get really loose. And yeah, sure, laugh. Yeah. You wait till you have a jaguar leap into your face. Yeah, neat sound, a cool sound. I was in Yellowstone Park at doing this program for the Yellowstone Institute, and they had a fellow there that was a professional hunter-trapper for the government, and he was going to make one just like this and use it for hunting mountain lions. He was a mountain lion hunter, and so I never did hear back whether he made one and if it was very successful on mountain lions. But let's see if we can see anything happening here. No, I don't think so. Okay. That was good there. See, and I told that story there. Oh, and what other sounds? Oh, sounds. Sometimes when they're out there, and when at that hand game that the drums are playing, right behind the men that are playing the drums are a group of women, and they're playing rattles. And they have rattles, and these are made out of these are the old style, made out of the dew claws of deer. These are the dew claws right here. And they would take these and they'd cut bundles of these off, and they would. When my son was really small, we would take bundles of these and tie him down his leggings when we'd go to Mountain Men Rendezvous, and we'd get over his tail where he was at by listening for that rattling sound off in the woods, because he was running all over the place and you heard the rattles. Another rattle, the Indians of Polynesia, the people of Polynesia, would take gourds and they would string it with palm fronds and put seeds inside of it, and they would use these for dancing, for ceremonies, healing ceremonies. Somebody's laying there and you could rattle the devil out of somebody by doing this thing. Another rattle, and this is one that my wife gave me a short time ago, came from South America, wasn't it, Barb? I believe it is. And again, it's a seed pod, but yet anything that could rattle. And rattles are used by cultures everywhere in the world, because you never know when you got to scare the devil out of somebody. Well, as people are wandering in the hills and stuff, they have to be able to carry stuff. If you're collecting, if you're a hunter-gatherer and you're gathering, you just can't gather stuff into your arms. You want to make it a little bit easier. And different people discover different ways of gathering and carrying materials. Some people's would, well, they would take a simple gourd like this, and they would either they'd cut it open like this, put stuff in, or they would cut it, make it small, leave it whole like this, drill a hole into it, clean it out, and you could store all sorts of beans, seeds, corn, whatever inside of it. Archaeologists have found these down in the Southwest, sealed like this. 1,000 years later, the seeds are still viable, still alive inside. They seal up that well. Or, for another carrying container, people would make a basket. Now, I made this basket down on the Yellowstone River. It was a wonderful fall day. I was out playing around, and I found a buffalo berry bush. And if you've ever eaten buffalo berries after the frost has kissed them, they're just wonderful, sweet, tangy. Didn't have anything. I was just wearing cutoffs and tennis shoes. I always carried a knife with me, so I made a basket. Wove a basket. Took me about half an hour, 45 minutes to make this basket. And it's a bell basket, but filled full of buffalo berries. But if a plant material could bend, they would make a basket out of it. And from corn, pine needles, different kinds of wood, willows, red osier dogwood, everything can be made into a basket. And they use baskets for different things, like in and different cultures of the world, they would make a basket like this, coat it with pine pitch, and use it for prospecting, for panning for gold. And a tool like this does work. I had some really heavy material. I was using lead. I didn't put any gold in here, but just to see if I could pan out lead. And this worked beautifully for panning out lead. And lead is like 11.5 times heavier than water. Gold is 19.5 times heavier. So if you could pan out lead, you can pan out gold. And it worked great. But cultures all over the world use baskets just like this for panning for gold. Another carrying container, well, the old snap and turtle shell. Works great. It's made a great serving platter. It's shallow enough in there, it could serve soups, meats, whatever inside of it. And different cultures got snap and turtles, shells that were so big that they became war shields. And they could protect themselves because, man, this thing is solid. This is rock hard. Other carrying containers. Well, this one right here. This actually isn't a gourd, it's a fungus that grows on the sides of trees in Central America, right off the trunk of a tree, and you pluck it off, let it dry, cut it open, and it's about a little over a 1/4 inch thick, hard as wood, and the peoples there would either use it for storing food in, or they would fill it about half full of water, put in vegetables, meats, whatever else, and then drop red hot rocks inside of it, and pretty soon the water gets to boiling and boiling, and it made a soup bowl you could cook out of this thing. Another carrying container, similar, well, this one. Another fungus off the sides of trees in Central America again. They grow like this, you pluck it off, let it dry, drill a hole into it, they're hollow on the inside, coat it with beeswax, and you've got a canteen for out in the jungles for walking along. It's a great carrying container for that. This one is a real gourd, thick-walled, coated in beeswax, and my son used it as on a trek when they were following the Lewis and Clark Trail along the Yellowstone River, following the trail of Clark and Sacagawea. And they made fun of him at first. They were having a big old gallon jug of water. Boy, halfway through that trip, this thing became really valuable because it carried so much water. Other carrying containers. Well, a bark basket. This basket is made out of a single piece of bark, about 3 feet long, 2.5 feet long. You strip it off the side of a tree. It's about 10 inches wide. Scratch little half moons into it, and when you fold it folds up into this shape. You can sew it together and line it with beeswax, pine pitch, and you've got a wonderful bucket. It fits nicely over your leg, so if you're shelling seeds or whatever else, it made a great carrying container. Now, I would love to take credit for making this, but actually it was my wife who made this basket. Oh, she's a multifaceted woman. Other carrying containers. Seems like when so many men go hunting, the first thing they do when they shoot an elk, they cut off the elk's leg right at the knee, leave that laying out in the hills, because they don't want to drag it back. Well, the Plains Indians would take an elk leg, and these are the dew claws, and this is made out of four legs. They would skin it, sew it together, turn it right side out, pack it full of hot, dry sand, leave it in the sun for a few days, and hard as rock. And they would use it for storing food, pemmican, seeds, berries, whatever inside of it. I had one that I lined with calico, covered it with brain tanned hide with some beadwork on it, and it's my wife's sewing kit when we would go to rendezvous and stuff like this. But they would use, this would be a great tool for carrying stuff. Now, if you didn't want to have a big bag, take 2 elk legs, sew them together like this, and you've got a possibles pouch. Carry a sewing kit, fire starting kit, snack food, whatever else inside of it. It's a handy little pouch, and yet all the hunters I ever know, they all throw the elk legs away. But I take them and I've used the big hooves for making glue, the small dew claws, I make rattles, or I make baskets like this. Everything out of that leg. I use virtually everything. So we beat that topic to death. Let's see. Oh gosh, Mega Grandma. One day, she's sitting around the camp, and she was watching off in the distance. There was a spider, and the spider was sitting there, and it was weaving a web. And beautiful, and she watched and watched, and pretty soon, a little fly came along and landed right into that web, and it was caught. And she got to thinking, make a spider web. I could make a spider web. Well, over time and practice and skills, Mega Grandma came up with a spider web. She made her own spider web. And cultures all over the world have different ways of making their spider webs. And some people's, like this is a bell basket, bell net. But others, I've seen nets where they would make them about that tall, a couple of 100 feet long, and they would drive deer into it, or rabbits, or other animals into these nets, and they'd get caught in it. put them in the water and you would catch fish. But peoples would also use a basket like this for a bell basket or a bell net for catching rabbits. And it was a wonderful one. Now one day you're wandering along and here you've got a rabbit hole. You know that rabbits are living inside of it and you've seen them out wandering around. So you sneak over to their hole and you stick it inside the net, like into the hole like this, so they don't even really see it. And then the rabbit is out wandering around and he's wandering, and pretty soon you chase the rabbit and the rabbit is scurrying, he's going all over the place, and he gets to his hole and he runs into his hole. Well, there's a trap inside waiting for him. You run up, grab the end of the line, and you've got your rabbit trapped inside of that thing, and now you're ready to take him home for dinner, but you've got to tenderize him first. There you go. Now your rabbit is ready for taking home to eat. Boy, you ought to hear what little kids say when I do that. But, you know, you can't just take the rabbit and say, oh, go to sleep, little bunny, I'm taking you to dinner. You know, and that was a pretty fast way to put him to sleep. Very effective. Was that terrible? I even think I even shocked you, didn't I? Nothing I do can shock her. Well, how about, in this village, before I drone on about this other topic, in this village, there was a friend of mine by the name of Dave Holliday told me this story, and it sounded pretty plausible to me. There was this young boy who was born in this village with a handicap. He didn't have forearms. His hands were attached up to here, so he couldn't carry a spear with the men. He had to stay home with the women. He had to dig roots with the women, haul firewood with the women, pick berries with the women, tan hides with the women, butcher meat with the women, make teepees with the women, help sew clothing with the women, made shelters with the women. It sounded like the women were doing everything in the village. Well, in the villages in the old days, yeah, the women did do everything. And they made everything, but they owned almost everything. And all the men had to do was go hunting, bring some meat home, and then relax. Cook me some meat, honey. And it sounded like a good life for the men, didn't it? Now, here's the other part of the story. The women are saying, honey, go kill me a buffalo. You bet, babe. Grab my sharp stick and go out and poke it into a buffalo. Now, buffaloes, in case you didn't notice, they have a real attitude problem about having a stick shoved into their sides, and they have a tendency to want to grind your body right into the ground. And that's why in so many cultures like that, that one husband might have 5 or 6 wives, because the survival rate of men going out with a sharp stick to kill a buffalo, go kill a grizzly bear, go kill something with a stick, you know, it just wasn't that great. And so you got a lot of wives and stuff that you had to take care of, and they would take care of you if you survived. Well, back to the village then, that poor little boy, that young boy, he got to thinking that if there was some way he could go hunting, because there were all this small game around. There were rabbits, there were birds, there were things that maybe he could hunt. And he got to thinking and noticing, and he discovered that maybe if I take my little digging stick and I modified it, shaped it a little bit, put a hook on it, and then maybe get a little spear like this. And I could take that little spear and a nice lightweight one, put a little hole on the end of that thing, and maybe I could throw that spear and get some distance out of it, and maybe it'd be a powerful tool. And let's see if it could. And what he discovered was that you could really throw that thing. I'm not going to throw it too far, because if I get out in those weeds, I'll never find it again. Do you want to run like a rabbit for me? Not a chance. The atlatl. Oh, God, there it went. Okay. Keep in line. It went straight out. Okay. It's disappeared. I saw it sail into those weeds out there. I may never see that spear again. But a powerful tool. It was an incredibly powerful. You're almost get straight off to the right a little bit. Off to your right. Now straight forward. Farther, 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 farther. There! Thank you so much. She risked life and limb getting out there. They killed out there, and there's a risk. Oh man, life. I thought you were going to die out there for a second. There might have been a snaddle rake out there waiting for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that all. Y'all take care. Oh yes, I appreciate people risking their lives to do something like that for me, because I sure wouldn't have gone out there. Anyway, how many of you ever seen cave paintings? You've seen artwork. You've seen where people have painted on the cave walls and stuff, and maybe you've seen animals painted it. How about the one where they stuck their hand in the paint and stuck it on the wall like that? You've seen that. How about the one where it looks like, and you may not see it here in North America, but you see it in other parts of the world, especially in France, in the caves where it looks like they stuck their hand up there and spray painted around it? The stencil. And for years, archaeologists thought that what the people did was they would take and they would put powder pigments in their mouth and spit the paint out and do the stenciling like that. Well, several years ago in a cave in France, they found a can of prehistoric spray paint that people did stencils with. And what it was a bird bone like this, or a deer bone like this, cut off, hollowed out on the inside, and a bird bone cut at an angle at the bottom, sitting inside of it, and another bird bone beside it. Prehistoric airbrush. And again, Bernoulli's principle in action. As you fill this full of paint, as you blow across the surface right here, it lowers the air pressure. The pressure becomes greater in the cup here, and it forces the paint up, and you could blow the paint out and do some spray painting with it. And I'm going to see if I can demonstrate it here. One thing I need is a volunteer. And don't all rush up here at once. Yes, I've got my volunteer. You're great. Willing to risk life and limb. Okay, what you want to do is stand here and kind of stand behind it. Hold it so it doesn't fall down. We'll hold it at an angle so people can see. You don't want to stand in front of it because you'll really get messy. And I'll see if I can come up and do it in front of you. Shake this up. What I do is I go into the Pryor Mountains and I decant. I collect all these different colors of clay and I decant the pigments out of it. And I've gotten over 29 different colors from reds, greens, blues, oranges, browns, all sorts of different colors. And I use these for my show. And what I'm doing here, this is, I call it Pryor Mountain Red. And I'll see if I can get it into this. Okay. Now I'm going to try blowing on this and see if I can get it up there. Watch out so I don't hit you in the face. Here we go. Okay. And that's how you do it. So, and it's that's pretty. Yes, it's a deadly toxin, so you never want to get it on your skin.
Careful, Edward.
Let me put this down here. Pour this back, and then I'll take it out of your hands. I'll be permanently stained red right there. Thank you very much. Big hand for my volunteer. I've never seen anybody more willing to step and lay their life on the line. Wipe this off back here. There, got that cleaned off. Whew, boy, that was good. In this little village. Oh, let's see. Oh, one day, one of the kids were wandering around and they were playing with their iPods. And one of the kids got to playing, and he got to thunking along, thunk, thunk, thunk. And he found himself a little stick. And he thought, oh, this would be kind of cool. And he got, boom, and all. God, I love the way she jumps. I can do almost anything and make her butt go about that far off there. Anyway, they were throwing these little sticks around in the air. And, of course, what do the mothers always say when kids are doing this? Don't do that because you're going to poke out somebody's eye. 15 minutes later, oh, Mama! And the men think, wow, this is wonderful. It's an eye-poking tool. And over time, they modified it, changed it, shaped it a little bit. And they found that if they put feathers on one end to help stabilize it in flight, something sharp on the end, you've got a deadly hunting tool. Well, over time, they developed a tool like this, but before they had a short bow like this, peoples here in North America had a bow like this one, the long bow. And about 600 years ago, 500 years ago, I can't remember which one it is, 500 years? Yeah, 500 years ago, they had, this long bow was put away because the horse showed up. And when they had the horse showed up, they couldn't use a bow like this, strap it to your back, because, oh, big fella, whoa! So they would take, and they got the short bow, and now it was wonderful. Now you could do some hunting. And imagine, it's a warm summer day in southeast Montana, and you've got a group of men, bunch of your buddies, and we've got hundreds of these little arrows, and we've got our bows like this, and we go creep up on a hillside because it's a nice June day, and we can lay up there on this hillside, and we take our little arrows, and we go boom, up in the air. They go flying in the air, and they come flying down, and boom, they land on these guys that are laying out there and wearing little blue shirts. Custer Battlefield. That's what the Indians did. They would go out there. Not too many of the Indians, well, they did have the Henry's rifles, which were really good, but a lot of the Indians, all they had were bows and arrows. And they would sneak up within 30 feet, 20, 30 feet of the soldiers, but they'd be in a little depression, and if the soldier couldn't see him to shoot at him, he couldn't hit him. And so the Indians would lay in there with hundreds of these things, and they would just, oh, thunk, and they would land, and these guys laying all over there. And when Crook showed up a couple of days later, he had a tailor with him. And the tailor looked out there and he said, Arrow shirts. Arrow shirts. God, am I that old that nobody remembers Arrow shirts? Arrow shirts. That used to be a brand of shirts, Arrow. But anyway, the bow and arrow used for hundreds of years after the atlatl disappeared. Ah, yes. Well, see, what else do I have laying up here? Oh, okay, all sorts of treasures. One day in this village, these kids are sitting around playing, and they go down to the pond, and a couple of boys, and one of them, he grabs a little hollow reed, and he gets a mouthful of water and sprays his friend in the face with that. Wonderful time. His friend gets a hollow reed, and he reaches down and maybe got a little rock in there, and hit his friend in the face with a rock. So his friend, okay, he shoves a rock in, and another one, he shoves a stick in there, and after a while experimenting, they decided that this might actually become an effective hunting tool. It's throwing little sticks, spitting little sticks at each other. And with modification, changing, experimentation, they discovered a tool like this. The blowgun. And the blowgun was used by cultures all over the world. It was a powerful, deadly tool. They would take a dart like this, put some fibrous material on the end to help stabilize it in flight, dip it into a neurotoxin, and then they would hit it and shoot it at animals. I was watching an old, there's that butterfly that I called in. In South America, I was watching a National Geographic, and this fellow had a blowgun, 30 feet long, and he would go out hunting monkeys, and he would work that thing and have it way up into the tree, and that monkey would be sitting there looking at that thing about 5 feet from him, and the guy would blow him and hit the monkey, and man, he'd come crashing out of the tree, and the guy took him home, ripped the skin off of him, and he ate him. Thank you. Okay, you're working with me there. Good. Well, the blowguns were used here in North America for years, different cultures, and even here in the northern plains, the Indians here used the blowgun because they used them greatly for hunting, but primarily they were hunting. You son of a gun. You waited all day for this. Well, you listen. The deadly pink panda. Are you going to do it, babe? Hold him up while I do this.
Hold him in front. Hold him. Hold him in front.
He knew what was coming.
Yeah.
No, his both legs are in between. If he hovers there, let me. That's good. And oh, I got him. He's wounded. He's in the leg. He's going to fight me. He's going to run. Can't have that happen. Yeah, I stuck that in there. Let's see if I can get him a better shot here. There we go. A kidney shot. Yeah. The deadly blowgun. Powerful, powerful tool. Used by cultures all over the world. Well, how many of you like to sit around campfires? Come on, everybody likes to sit around a campfire. Campfire is like prehistoric television, isn't it? Though? Imagine you're sitting there and you're looking at the flames and you're watching the story that goes on before you. And you get bored of the story, so you take the remote control and you change channels out there. And so but the person that could make fire was creating magic. And fire was powerful because fire, it kept danger away at night. It cooked your food. It kept you warm. Fire was life. And some friends wrote this poem, and I thought I'd read it to you. It's a short one. Smoke from an open fire is charged with memory. In one whiff, we join with our ancient ancestors, and all that is primitive in us awakens. Fire. It's a powerful tool. And the person that could create that fire, could make fire, was creating magic. And different peoples had different ways of making fire. Some peoples found that the earliest peoples found that they could take where's my sticky? A stick like this with a fireboard, and if they could go like this and start a fire back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like this. I've done it. I like to have a paramedic nearby because I usually go into a cardiac arrest. It's pretty hard. And years ago there was a movie called, Quest for Fire, and Ray Don Chong was out there. Oh, Ray Don Chong, she looked good there. Anyway, started a fire like this. It is killer on your hands. It just bruises your hands, something awful. But some people's found that they could make it work a little bit easier if you took a little leather thong, put it over the top, hooked it over your thumbs, the ends over your thumb, then you could keep that downward pressure going back and forth like this, and get a fire started that way. It takes a little while, but you can get it done. Some people's found that they could take a long stick, and I've seen this in Polynesia, in Hawaii. where the Indians there would take it and they would back and forth like this. And it's a plow method. And after a while, you could push up a pile of hot carbon particles, get a fire started that way. It takes a lot of work, but you can get it done. Some people's found that they could take some people's would use a drill method. And they would use a drill method like this. They would take a big long stick, put a heavy bearing stone on this, and it would take 2 people to do this, 2 or 3 people to do it. But again, doing the pump action, they could get a fire started that way. It's a lot of work, but you can get it done. Some people's discovered that they could take a piece of iron and a piece of pyrite. Has anybody ever read Clan of the Cave Bear or those stories of Ayla? And Ayla discovered that you could take a piece of pyrite and strike it in, and I don't know if you can see the sparks that are flying off. These sparks are almost 2,000 degrees that come off of here, and you can get a fire started that way. Up on the north slopes of Alaska and in the Arctic regions, the peoples there would use what was called a plow, or a different method, and they would take a long stick. There we go, like this, and they would wrap a thong around it about 3 or 4 times like this, and they would take and they would have a stick that they held in their mouth. Let's see if I can get this going here. See if I can make any hope of smoke or something. Of course, the wind has to come up. Has a little bearing that you hold in your mouth. Take my glasses off because it just rattles my head so much. Yeah. Anyway, you can make smoke and get a fire started this way. The natives would do it this way because you could even wear gloves, thick, heavy gloves, and start a fire by doing it that technique. Now, for me, I prefer using the bow and drill method, and it seems to work pretty good for me. And what I have is I have a piece of rawhide that I catch my hot carbon particles in, and I'll have a board here that has a little depression in it with a V notch because I'm collecting hot carbon particles. And I'll see if I can get that set up here. I have a rock that has a hole in it, and it's got animal fat inside of it because I want 0 friction here, all my friction down here. And I'm going for what's called a high friction coefficient. So a friction coefficient of 0.01 is like hot oil on Teflon. A friction coefficient of 0.99 is your butt going down the highway after a motorcycle wreck. Really a lot of friction. So you're going for a maximum friction coefficient. Then I have a stick here. This is a piece of yucca, and I prefer using that. And then, of course, I have my bow. Then I I make myself a little bird's nest out of dried grass, weeds, sticks, and stuff like this. We'll see if this works. Sometimes the magic works. Sometimes it doesn't. I owe that to Chief Dan George and Little Big Man. He does this. We'll set this guy here. Get everything ready. Now I've got a pretty good little breeze blowing, so we'll see if I can get something started here. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And we're going to see right now what takes place. Okay. Okay, here we go. Boy, the harder I do it, the faster the wind blows. Yeah. Well, that feels like something happened. We'll see here in a second. Oh, let's see if we got a spark. Come on, baby. Don't die on me. Yeah. It feels good. It acts good. Now, we're going to see if the magic happens. Okay, here we go, baby. Come on. Work for me. Okay. fire! I am a god! Oh, I'm a god! I'm on fire! Woo! Whoa! Whoa! Die! 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 Prairie fire! Prairie fire! Oh! That was. I'm impressed with myself. And I tell you, every time I see that happen, it's like magic. It's like I'm pulling a rabbit out of the hat. I'm creating fire from nothing. And fire to me is magic. It's just it's a neat thing to discover and behold. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what I've showed you are just a few of the things that your ancestors and my ancestors used to survive in a world out here that was rough. I mean, it was hunt, kill, or be hunted, be killed. And whatever you had to do, you had to learn how to survive. And fortunately, our ancestors were smart enough that they knew that they could manipulate this world around them to bring joy, pleasure, survival to themselves. Because the better you got at doing this stuff, the better you got of keeping that next door neighbor of yours on the other side of the hill and away from you. I want to thank you. I tell you, I love doing this program, and I want to thank you for being my audience today. You've been a great bunch of people, although you didn't laugh at all my jokes like I wanted to. But thank you so darn much. Are there any questions that I can answer? If I don't know the answer, I'll lie to you right